Annyeong haseyo. ¿Cómo estás? Hajime Konnichiwa. Salut. Shalom. Um, and any other languages I forgot. Ni hao ma. Anything else? Okay. Okay, back to English. So I'm doing this special video to reflect upon my brother who passed away at the age of 11. Um, Sebastian was 2 years older than me. I lost my brother to AIDS and pneumonia. Uh, I I grew up. We grew up in a house with 6 children. Okay, 3 older sisters uh, and 3 brothers. Except I lost Adrian before I was ever born. I was born in 1978, and my twin brothers were born in 1976. Adrian was 3 months old when he died. He died of a blood hemorrhage. And Sebastian died at 11. I was 9 years old when he died of the AIDS and pneumonia. And it was done through blood transfusions and medications and such, in which my family had sued the living crap out of the pharmaceutical companies. It was a class action lawsuit and such. But the technical things aside, my brother and I never really achieved harmony. The biggest regret, as far as my family goes, is that Sebastian and I were never close. We were never close as brothers, even though we were kids. I always picked on him. I always made fun of him or ridiculed him. Um, Sometimes it was because he was born blind. Blood went into his brain a little bit too much, and it affected his eyesight. So my brother could not see. He could hear, he could smell, he could touch and taste, but not see. He went to special Braille school. He went to the Braille Institute in Los Angeles. He went to a special school for blind children. And sometimes I made fun of him, and sometimes I just made fun of him because he had mild forms of autism. He could read and write, and he could read Braille and write and do things anybody else can, but he didn't always respond properly to everything all the time. But he was a smart, sharp kid, and I think for me, I live with a big regret that I could not have been closer to him. Unfortunately, I think that there were differences in our personalities. I started to shift away from my family members, and he was sort of my mom's favorite son. But it's like, it's you don't want to pick your favorite children. You just want to treat everybody as fairly as you can. You want to do it. This is his. The reason you're looking at this is that this is his favorite cat. When my brother died, and I remember my mom threw herself on that casket, and that was the hardest thing for her. When you see his tombstone, if you were to see his tombstone, you'd see Felix the cat on the tombstone on his next to his name, birth, and death. By the way, Garfield the cat was my favorite cat when I was a child. But I learned a lot of things when he had passed away. My mom was so upset on the ride home. She said, when we drove, I saw my brother, and he was pale and he was bruised. And it was scary for me because I thought when people died, it was when they were really old. And at 9 years old, I learned that, people can die at, at 10 years old or 11 years old or any old. People can die. I never even knew about my other brother, Adrian, until, later on. I just never really realized it because he had gotten sick. Um, I want to close out this video by saying a couple of things. And my mom, when we drove home, she talked about God. Um, I used to think God was this old man that would watch you from the sky at 9 years old. And when my brother died, she said, if God was good, if God was real, why would he allow my son to die? And that was sort of the domino that started the other dominoes. It was like I became an atheist, agnostic, slash agnostic because of this. Because I said, why would God allow good children? You watch those. In America, we have St. Jude, a hospital for children with cancer. If God was good, why do these kids get sick and die of cancer? Or why do they even need to get sick of cancer to begin with? Where's God at, when that happens? So, you know, when bad things happen, it's Satan's fault. When good things happen, it's God's fault. Okay. And the other thing I want to say is that I don't talk to my family very much. I have hard relationships with my mom, with my sisters. I lost my father. I lost my other sister. I lost. Uh, half of my nuclear family is dead. I lost my half of my nuclear family. But the one time that my parents, my mom, my dad, my brother, and we got along as a family. My sisters weren't my older sisters at that time were moving on to college. So they were moving on to college, and we went on a trip to San Francisco in 1986. And let me think about that. No, I think, let me think. I think my sister Emma was still going to high school at Ramona Convent at that time. And my other two sisters were moving on, with their lives, being adults and such. But my brother and I, Sebastian and my parents went to San Francisco for about 3 days, during which I think was it was the third grade. And I think it was the only time nobody ever fought with one another. I didn't act up. I didn't get on my dad's temperamental side. I didn't get on my mom's nerves. I didn't pick on my brother. We just went to a place we never went to before. We saw the trolleys. We saw the ships, the anchors, the Queen Mary, I think. Or maybe that's something else. But we went out somewhere that was not in our usual environment, and we just went away. And I think that was the only time we functioned as a family. And that was the only family outing, going all the way to San Francisco for the 3 day weekend. That was nothing that mattered. Um, so I want to end this by saying that, uh, you know, if you have brothers, if you have sisters, whoever, there must be somebody in your family that you can talk to. And if you can't talk to anybody, um, talk to people find the people who are like you, who you can confide in. Unfortunately, I think most of us find that on social media and emailing and text messaging. But the other thing about AIDS and the AIDS virus and pneumonia, first of all, one, you got to take good care of your kids. Make sure your kids are well taken care of. They keep warm so they don't catch pneumonia. And the other thing too is, um, there was an example of somebody who has hemophilia and AIDS. I think he died in his mid 30s, but he did have AIDS and hemophilia, and he survived. So it's knowing the right doctors, knowing the right people, and just whatever we can do to reverse engineer this AIDS virus, but more importantly, AIDS prevention. It is our obligation. It is your obligation. It is my obligation, um, to really do the right things and to prevent AIDS from ever um, killing people. I mean, nowadays, I see this one guy who had the AIDS virus. He died of a surfing accident. I think it was a mayor or a councilman or politician. He died of an AIDS virus. I'm sorry, he had the AIDS virus, but he died of some freak accident out surfing. So, you just got to take care of yourself. But he had AIDS, but he survived okay. He survived the AIDS. And we all know Magic Johnson is the leading, advocate of AIDS, surviving AIDS and AIDS prevention. So I will say this, that Be well to people you care about. Be well to everyone. And I'm going to close out this video by saying thank you, my brother. Thank you, Sebastian. I hope in the next life you are doing even better than I am. Adios.